If you're someone who has been or is experiencing a roller coaster of emotions and perhaps even some bumpy times, then this video is for you. I was actually inspired to make this video based on the incredible amount of emails that I receive from you guys every single day, questions, and just a lot of people that are reaching out looking for some sort of a light at the end of the tunnel. In my personal astrology sessions, I also work with a lot of people that are dealing with very, very, very intense and stressful situations. And you know, it's interesting to notice which months there are greater amounts of people experiencing similar things. And I know that April was definitely one of them. As a matter of fact, throughout the entire year of 2019, it's been really just this culminating snowball, effect of events that really had its peak in April. And we're still, at least throughout the first half of May, going to continue kind of working with these themes before things begin to settle a little bit. And in this video, I really want to give you guys some perspective on what's happening from a greater perspective, okay? So that is the purpose of this video. My name is Raquel Spring. I am a fourth generation astrologer, and my ultimate passion is really to help you understand the greater picture, how astrology works, the intelligence behind the system, and not just stand here and tell you what's going to happen in your week, but really to help guide you step by step in a deeper understanding of how astrology works and the greater unfoldings, the greater cosmic unfoldings that are very much reflected in astrology and through astrology as well. So this video here is going to be specifically talking about the greater perspective of these intense times that we're in. All right, before we start, I am going to give you guys a little peek on where I'm at. And believe it or not, I am up on a tree house. Yes, look at all the trees around me. I feel like a little child all over again. And it's so amazing. Look at this. Look how cute. There's like little places to sit down. Yeah, it's really cute. I got to show you this one here. So let me see if I can. So there's like all these like little sayings, right? This one here is my favorite one. And I know it's probably backwards in the camera right now, but it says, "Take my advice. I am not using it." I thought that was the best. It was so cute. So, yep, that's the tree house. So in case you guys hear some rustling of leaves and just some weird noises, you know that it's just the wind and trees and all right. Okay, so that's the challenging part of showing you guys around, is that after I have to fix this. Okay, there you go. I think I got it. So I want to explain something to you guys. There has been this collective shift, really powerful shift going on since 2018. And I know most of you guys know what I'm talking about. Most of you guys have felt it to some extent. And I can go on and on about all the crazy astrological configurations we had taking place last year that contributed to that. But I want to stick right now to a specific one, which is going to help me drive the point home a lot more efficiently. And that is the role of Uranus in the astrology of 2018 and right now. At least the beginning of 2019, okay, because that's what we're talking about. So we know that the role of Uranus is to disrupt, is to bring change to the known, right, to the comfort zone. The role of Uranus is to really stir change so that we can be pushed to evolve. And a lot of times, many times, most times actually, the human being in its own nature, we don't tend to seek change or growth unless there is a reason for that. If we're comfortable and everything is well, we're not moved, right, to take certain steps and to change. And so life has a really interesting way of doing that for us and with us. And that is one of the roles of Uranus, is to facilitate that and to bring the disruption, to bring the change. And, you know, it's not always challenging types of change, but it definitely is unexpected, and it definitely has that very charged quality to it. When Uranus comes, it comes suddenly, and it, here I am, ready or not. And Uranus is a really powerful planet, you know, I mean, its energy is very, very strong and very noticeable. So whenever Uranus is involved in any astrological alignment, we definitely feel it. And Uranus can bring that sort of, that quality of like, what's going on? Like, what the fuck? What? Like, you don't understand anything. It's just like, it comes, it goes, before you even have the chance to blink. So if we try to understand things with Uranus, it doesn't work, because we're not supposed to. If we think twice, it kind of defeats the purpose of everything. So Uranus just comes, and just like, ready or not, here comes change. And Uranus has been very, very active in a very significant way since 2018. And this happened, you know, more so at different times of the year than others, but this was due to the Uranus's back and forth retrograde motion. It was for pretty much most of the year finalizing its trajectory in the last degrees of Aries, and then entering Taurus, and then retrograding back into Aries, and so forth. But as it was doing that, it was having this really interesting dynamic conversation, especially from the second semester of 2018 with the lunar nodes. And to me, this is so significant, because you guys that know me and my style, the lunar nodes are one of my main focuses when I work with astrology, because the lunar nodes really come from, they bring the message or the influence from the greater perspective, whether you want to call it God, soul, your higher self, like collective, you know. You guys know me by now. I'm not a big fan of labels and names, but you get the picture. This is like the overall, beyond, you know, your human personality or your human choices types of situations that come through the nodes. So the south node brings the past life, you know, the karma, or it can be really pleasant things as well. It can be like past life masteries, and it can bring situations to the fore again, and people, and just a lot of things. And then the north node is more of like where you're supposed to be heading. So it's that fresh new energy, the uncharted territory, or the uncomfortable zone for a lot of people. Yes, including me. My north node is my uncomfortable zone for sure. It has been, and, you know, I proactively work with it so that I can, you know, do the subject justice to my soul's evolution. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what we're all really doing in our own way. So the fact that Uranus was working together with the lunar nodes last year, for most of the year, for the second semester, you know, Uranus was in the middle of, we know the lunar nodes are 180 degrees apart, right? And Uranus was right in the middle, creating what we call a T-square. And the T-square is generally known for being a stressful aspect, right? It's like the opposition can already be stressful in and of itself, but then you have the T-square, and it really like breaks down that energy in the middle. And so that already existing tug of war, the push and pull of two directions wanting focus and attention that are really just trying to be integrated, they come into an even like stronger culminating point of expression through the planet that creates the T-square. And it creates that really definite rupture right in the middle of the two choices, the two roads, the two paths. And when we're dealing with a planet like Uranus, who's already all about change, and you put him in a T-square with the nodes, you know, I was talking about in so many of my videos last year about how this was a massive like split of timelines, if you will. Again, this is just an expression. This is just, I'm here using words to try to communicate something much deeper. So feel free to substitute the word timelines, like just the same way that when I use the word karma, you know, if you have another word that you resonate with more, or God or soul, use that word. Don't get stuck in every single word that I use, or every single, it's really about understanding the heart and soul of what's going on. And I'm going to use the word timelines just because that's the word that's coming to me now. But 2018 was very much so a preparation for a split in timelines, or just directions in life for different people. The retrogrades, all planets were retrograde last year, and this definitely brought a lot of karmic themes as well, and a lot of people just making new decisions, taking different steps in their life, and a lot of things that were beyond our control, right, that were happening. And again, I'm only bringing up 2018 so that we can set the tone for what we're talking about. This is my style, this is how I work. I like to help you understand the full picture. And 2019 was already very, very, very intense with Jupiter and Scorpio, all the planets retrograde, the eclipses, the nodes in the T-square with Uranus. I mean, the list goes on. And Venus and Juno, which are the ultimate significator of relationships, were extremely active during the whole process. So, and then Venus was retrograde as well. So there was a lot of really intense experiences that took place. And for a lot of us, they had to do with relationships as well. So Uranus was already bringing up and sparking all this change, and just stirring a lot of things up, just kind of like really bringing things to the surface in a very uncomfortable way for most people, but it had to be done. It had to be done. Everybody experienced it. Well, most people experienced it. I experienced it, I can tell you that. I mean, I completely dropped off of social media since 1st of September, you know, and I haven't been back since. It's been it's going to be 9 months, and I'm still like, okay, preparing now to come back. And so I think we all in our own way experienced it. We all took a back step, all took a break, or just, it was intense. It was a lot going on. And now as we come into this year, you know, okay, Uranus is no longer squaring the nodes. However, Uranus is still very much active. First of all, just for the fact that he recently entered Taurus for good. Just that in and of itself is massive, because it's a massive change of energy. When we have one of the energy shift, when we have one of the outer planets that change signs, this is so big. It's so significant. There's no way you don't feel it. There's no way. You know, for most people, this also means a change in houses, or at least sometime right before or right after. It could be a change of houses as well. And so it's a completely new area of your life that receives that boost of change and that revolution. You know, I mean, all you have to do is look at your own chart and look to see where the last degrees of Aries are and the first degrees of Taurus. That is where Uranus has been for about a year now. And now as it entered Taurus, it really brings a massive new dynamic into the picture, right? So just that alone, I mean, Uranus was already sparking all this change with the nodes and stuff like that. And now it enters Taurus, so it's completely new energy. So, you know, a lot of us are just really disoriented here, okay? Like, all right, Uranus, you know, wait up, like, hold on, like, I want to keep up with you, but you gotta work with me here, you know? And Uranus is, he's known for his electricity, for his energetic quality, for his just all of a sudden, like the genie in the bottle comes, goes, and it's hard to keep up with him. He not only brings a new energy to all of us, because that's directing it into somewhere new in our chart. For a lot of us, it's conjuncting personal planets or aspecting personal planets, but collectively, it's also the focus is now in the Taurus element, right? And the Taurus sign. And so bringing all this quality of change from Uranus is something that we are collectively getting settled into. All the while with the massive Capricorn energy that we've been dealing with. So there's obviously a very specific, hello.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, you can come up if you want.
Are you sure?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not interrupting you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's a beautiful little tree house up here. So the 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 dynamic of like everything that's already going on and building up and leading up to this is already very, very intense. And if you stop and look, like just at Uranus, for example, you'll see that Uranus is not working alone. And he's not working isolated in this week or next month or, okay, now he entered Taurus. Okay, what does that mean? Like, no, he's entering Taurus with a storyline from last year with its own set of cycles and so forth. So this is one of the things that I want to encourage you guys to be mindful of. Try to pay attention to the storyline of the planets. And this is why these videos are really helpful as well, because I like to bring that perspective and I like to help you guys understand where everything is coming from. And so the more you follow the videos and the more you watch these, it's so much easier to understand. Let's say in a month from now, we're talking about whatever, we're talking about Mars. It's so much easier to understand why Mars is behaving that way or why these things are happening because of the other videos that have been accompanying Mars's journey and storyline. And so things make more sense. So in this sense, when we look at the planet Uranus, we're not just looking at the month of, you know, April or May or whatever it is, and just focusing on the fact that he just entered Taurus. We're taking into consideration that he entered Taurus already sparking so much change from a soul level, you know, from throughout all of 2019. I mean, he's been demolishing, like that's probably the best word I could use right now. He's been demolishing so much in its path. So many things that are ready to be renewed and recycled and so forth. And he comes into 2019 ready to enter Taurus, ready for, you know, more things that are happening and we're going to talk about soon. But he comes already with that script, already with that flow, right? Working with the nodes, which is a very, very high energetic piece in astrology. So it's not just a mundane, you know, we're not talking about, again, Mars or Mercury. We're talking about the nodes here. So we know that these changes and all these crazy situations that are happening all over the place, somehow in its own twisted and crazy form, it's really happening from a greater perspective and ultimately to help us evolve. So when we start to look at things that way, all of a sudden it starts to become a lot easier to settle and surrender to the flow of where things are going. It's like one of those things that you maybe don't necessarily understand at the moment or don't necessarily agree with, but it's one of those things that later down the road you're going to be like, oh my God, now I see why. Thank God that happened. You know, it's like, you know, for you guys that know that I was born and raised in a cult, you know, we were brainwashed to believe that if we ever left the cult, we would die, we'd be abandoned by God, like, you know, everybody would, our life would be miserable and like all these terrible things. So I never wanted to leave because I had that peer pressure and I was brainwashed since I was a baby into that. And when the time finally came for me to leave, it was very interesting because it wasn't my choice. It was actually a situation that happened externally outside of my control, which actually came across as a very, 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 very traumatic experience. Perhaps one of the most, or definitely the top 3 most traumatic experiences of my life. And that was the catalyst for me to leave the cult. And at the time, it was just devastating. I literally thought I was going to die. And I did not have anybody around me to help me. It was one of those things of like, my God, why have you forsaken me type of thing. But then as time went on, it was so clear to me, like, my God, thank you, universe. Thank you for shoving me out of that place, because if it wasn't for that, I'd probably still be stuck there, you know? And it's one of those things that, like, you just have to trust and surrender, because you will see the bigger picture at some point of your journey. And this is kind of what's happening to a lot of us right now. And I know that so many of you guys reach out to me every day, besides all the private sessions and everything that I work with. And I just see it so, the things that I'm hearing from you guys are just like, oh my God, you know, it's heart-wrenching. I feel you guys, I really, really do. And that's why I'm making this video here. But at the same time, I also understand the greater perspective, and I understand the concept and the process of what it entails to be squeezed and pushed to your limit, but at the same time, just keep your heart open and be in full surrender of the process. So with Uranus, what I want to tell you guys right now is that the activity from Uranus is not really over yet. And Uranus in Taurus, yes, it brings the new energies, it brings, the Taurus energy and so forth. And even for a lot of you guys, if you guys have anything in the first few degrees, especially like 0 to 3, 0 to 5 degrees of any signs, you guys are receiving a strong impact from Uranus, because Uranus is now fresh in a new sign, all that new energy, all that dynamic, and in the early degrees of Taurus. So, this is one way to know already who is being more impacted specifically by Uranus and all the change factor, and who is being more impacted and who isn't. But to some extent we all are. And Uranus sitting there at the first few degrees of Taurus, what happens is that throughout the whole Aries season and Taurus season as well, this means April, okay, especially the end of the mid-April to mid-May, that whole entire month of mid-April to mid-May, Uranus is getting activated again, amongst everything else that's already happening that is so intense and contributing to this, this story. We have all the karmic themes coming up with this really, really, really rare alignment that we've been having, and it's specifically culminating in April with all the Pluto and Saturn and South Node, and that's really, really, like I always say, opening the gates of the underworld and having us experience a lot of karmic themes that are coming full circle. So this can be very intense in and of itself. But the beauty of it is that as we are kind of cleaning up all this stuff that's ready to be transmuted and to be moved on from, so that we can continue our process of evolution, right? Because that's the purpose of everything. If we're stagnant, if we're sitting in the same patterns for too long, it kind of defeats the purpose of the human journey. So life has to come and shake us out of our seats and bring that dynamic change so that we can continue the evolutionary process and not get stuck. So as we're having all these dynamic things happening with the Capricorn energy and the karmic cycles coming full circle and so forth, we have the collaboration of Uranus sparking up so much change and so much have a nice day.
Thanks. Sorry about
Oh,
you.
no way, not at all. We have all the energy of Uranus that is lifting up change while we are dealing with all this intensity. So isn't it obvious that, okay, yes, we are concluding cycles, we are concluding patterns, but we are also moving on. This is the good news, guys. This is the good news. We are no longer subjected to be stuck in the same patterns over and over and over again like we have been for many years, and for some of us for lifetimes. We are really literally being given the opportunity to work on that and transmute that or change that, or whatever way you want to look at it, and face it, and then bring the energy of the new. And this is where Uranus is coming in. And so the cycle of Aries, and specifically of Taurus, right? As soon as the sun got into Taurus and conjuncted Uranus in those first few degrees, and then throughout the rest of the first couple of weeks into May, there's Mercury and then Venus as well coming and conjuncting Uranus. So bam, 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 we have all of these really powerful triggers to Uranus still sparking up change. And so we have here this month, we have this segment of time that we are dealing with so much change. Now, on one hand, this is really awesome for, this is really great energy for moving ahead. A lot of projects are moving forward. There's a lot of momentum starting to build up on top of this wave, on top of all this energy of change, which is a really productive thing. We're also meeting new people, new opportunities. I know I myself have been so busy that I'm like settling into this new cycle of my life and dealing with the growth of my work as well. So it's a lot of new energy that we're dealing with, which on one hand is and can be very productive. But on another hand, it's also change that is putting us into this new timeline factor. This splitting of worlds, the splitting of paths, the splitting of direction between us and a lot of people in our lives. This is where a lot of us start to determine who it is that is really aligned with our journey, who isn't. And again, there is no good and bad. I think there are many paths to the same destination. It's not that one is better than the other, and there is no ultimate truth. I think that we all have different experiences that are felt depending on our own filter, right? Our own understanding of reality, of the world, and our own projections as well. That determines our truth, our path. And we are all at different points of evolution and understanding. Some people are ready to understand certain things, others aren't. And it's okay. It's okay. We all have our pace. However, this is a time where we're starting to align more with the people that are going in the same direction as we are and that are aligned with our path. And for this reason, whether we are consciously aware of this or not, whether we are consciously making these choices or not, this is happening. And it's kind of like the universe is working through us and with us on this. And a lot of us are aware, others aren't, so to whatever degree, to whatever extent we want to work with this energy, it's there, but it's happening anyways. So here's where a lot of the challenges, a lot of the heartbreaks, a lot of the heartaches, a lot of the situations where we feel devastated or we feel like things are out beyond our control, right? Here's where we are in that little piece of the tunnel where we can feel that. And this is because we're having, these things have been culminating all throughout 2018, and they're really, they've been already building up since 2018 and are really culminating now in this segment of the year. And as we prepare to conclude this first semester of the year, it's almost like our lives are so different than they were a year ago. I know I can tell you for a fact that when I look at my life even a year ago, last year at this same time, wow, I see myself today and I'm like, oh my gosh, how much I've grown, how much I've realized certain things about life and my perspective on things. The wisdom that I've gained just in a year from now has been astounding. And I know that many of you guys feel the same. So as we prepare to reach this point of culmination with Uranus and all this drastic change going on, it can really feel like a time where things are just beyond our control. And these situations that we're experiencing are painful situations and bring a lot of suffering and a lot of anguish. And the amount of people, of you guys that reach out to me asking for guidance because you have some crucial life-changing choice that you have to make is astounding. There's so many of you guys that are like, I'm having to make massive decisions in my life. Please help me shed some guidance, shed some clarity. And what I really want to convey here to you is that, wow, it's really dark, right? Okay. That's what happens when you're not in a studio and you just like work with what you have. My main message to you guys here is really to help understand from a greater perspective the why of these changes and not to be scared of having to make big decisions, not being scared of having to make new changes, because if this resonates with you and if you're one of these people and are experiencing all this change and all this beyond your control, having to make these decisions, or people are making decisions for you and you're just like, oh my God, that person left me, or my boss fired me, and all these things. Know that you are in the flow. What that means for you literally is that you have successfully completed many, many lifetimes and patterns of patterns that have been somewhat keeping you stagnated. And yeah, they may have been somewhat comfortable, right? More comfortable than now, but at the same time, you're ready for more growth. You're ready for the next step. And if you weren't, change wouldn't be coming to you. The fact that change is knocking at your door, it means that you are ready. You are one of many of us who are experiencing this fork in the road, this break of paths, shift in timelines. This is where soul families start to unite. Even in the midst of all this crazy energy that's happening, there's many people that are coming together as well in really powerful and strong bonds and relationships that are going to only evolve and grow from here. So, all right, guys, well, I apologize. I'm gonna just give up trying to find a good spot with enough light and just conclude this over here, because it's really about the message, you know? Sometimes I get like really in awe at the type of things that people get triggered with, you know? It's really amazing. And I know some people don't particularly enjoy videos under specific light conditions and things like that, but to me it's really about the message. I'm not here to entertain, I'm not here to look pretty, to look good, really as much as I am to convey a message to you. So let's conclude this here by saying that yes, there is change. Yes, it started, you know, last year, and we are still dealing with all this Uranus energy that has been very active since 2018 and culminating right now as the sun crossed over Uranus, as Mercury and Venus follow and enter Taurus and conjunct Uranus as well. These are all other factors that are contributing to sparking up more change and making things happen. So after all of this that's been happening with Uranus and how we are today, really at a time of a lot of karmic stories that are ready to be concluded and patterns that are ready to be walked away from, and just, all right, been there, done that, it's over. I passed that grade, did that, you know, that was intensive, but I'm ready for the next step. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. So this is like the last little, like the few remains of this Uranus energy that's been really, really active for some time now. You know, and after Taurus season, after Mercury and Venus leave this conjunction with Uranus, you know, then things will calm down a little bit more with Uranus. We don't have any like massive major, you know, conjunctions or things like that that are going to spark Uranus into action anytime soon. You know, of course, there's always like minor ones and things like that that happen whenever a planet enters a new sign and so forth. But this was really, really strong because of the conjunction and being together with the Capricorn stellium, you know, being activated and so forth. So it's just a really powerful dynamic that has been bringing a lot of change, a lot of rash behavior, a lot of people that have been, you know, just exploding and losing their, you know what, and projecting it onto others or dumping it onto others. And there's just things are so messy and icky on so many levels in so many ways. But if you rise above that, and if you look from a greater perspective and you start to understand this storyline from a more objective, a more neutral, without that emotional factor tied into it, right? Without the judgment, without the interpretation or the labels, and you really just kind of zoom out to understand the bigger picture of it all, then you can see that, you know, even the people that are being triggered or mistreating others or arguing or all of that that's happening, they are in their own way dealing with their own opportunities to close patterns and cycles. Some people won't. Some people will resist it, and it's okay. They have free will. However, the opportunity is being given to everybody, and many people are taking it. And this is where the timeline splits occur. The people that are not ready to change, or the people that, you know, want to head a specific direction versus others that are heading a different direction. This is where life starts to rearrange itself in massive ways for us so that we can come together with the people that are aligned with our journey. And so that, of course, we can continue our evolutionary process in new levels now. You know, we're adults now, we're no longer children. So I always say that. So, you know, be comforted, be rest assured that this cycle, yes, it's intense. Yes, there are many painful situations I know you guys have been dealing with, and a lot of crazy, crazy energy all over the place. But whenever you're tempted to look at the person yelling at you, or your family member completely, rejecting you, or your boss firing you, or whatever circumstance you're going through, instead of just looking at that and perceiving it through your human eyes, right, and the filter of your emotions, I want to invite you to, it's okay to feel it, to cry, to yell, to, you gotta process it somehow. It's energy and it's gotta be processed somehow. But I do want to invite you to afterwards just surrender and let these little mosquito flies thing here, surrender to it and let yourself ease into the trust and the knowing in your heart that these changes are serving your higher purpose. For as much as it may be something like, oh my God, the dog that I've had for the last 20 years, my best friend just died. Like, how can this serve my purpose? Or things that may seem like completely beyond your control, and just how can this be anything positive? Know that it's contributing to a really significant turning point in your life. Perhaps it's not even about the situation itself, but perhaps it's about the emotions you're going to feel through the situations that are going to spark a desire to pursue a certain direction, or maybe spark the desire to ask certain questions in your life, which will in turn bring the necessary answers that you need for your next step. So this is what I mean about zooming out and seeing things from the greater picture. It really is not so much about the story that's happening, but the underlying reason behind it. So this is what surrender is. Surrender is about just saying, I know there's a greater reason for this, even though it doesn't make sense, even though I've done nothing to deserve this, even though I've done all the affirmations and meditations and this is still happening. Trust that this is happening collectively. It's been happening, it's been building up for about a year now. It's no chance, it's no coincidence. We are at a very, very particular time in history. So rest assured that there's nothing like wrong with you, or nothing wrong with your situation, or nothing like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, we're all going through it on some level, and we're all preparing for new massive shifts in our life so that we can receive more power, so that we can exert more power, so that we can play with the big boys and play with the big toys of creation. How can we play with the big toys of creation if we're not even mature to even hold them in our hands? Oh my God, let me see if I can show you guys. Look at this bird. Oh, look at that. Can you see that? It's like this blue bird. It's so pretty. This place is full of them. Oh, I can't zoom in. This is beautiful, beautiful, like bright blue bird, and there's so many of them here. I love it. Anyway, so rest assured, guys, that this is really intensive training for a lot of us, so that we can be at a place in our lives that we are ready to hold bigger toys. If you want to stay in your comfort zone and dibble dabble with little plastic toys, or the little plastic like water guns or whatever, like kids just like, oh my God, this is so cool. And it may be cool, if for some people, if you're having fun where you're at and you don't want to change, okay, so be it. It's going to be a little tough on the people that are going to resist the change, because it's one of those things that we're ready for it and it's beyond our control. But a lot of us have dabbled with the plastic toys for way too long, and we're ready for the big toys. We're ready to start mastering telepathy. We're ready to start mastering manifesting, creating, and really experiencing power on a new level. And the cycles of astrology have really been contributing and speaking of that preparation toward that. And so now, as we see the unfolding of all these things continue to happen, it's so easy to see and to understand that, like, okay, this is just a part of the cycle. This is just a part of the process, so that I can, be ready to receive more. So know you're not alone. Know that you are really being given the gift and the opportunity to conclude patterns and cycles that have been going on for way too long and that are ready to be released. And I'm not saying released in the way of denying it, walking away from it, putting walls around you. I've had enough. No, I'm talking about seeing it for what it is and then choosing to move along. So it's not about denying it or closing yourself to it or building walls or hardening up. It's about seeing it for what it is and then choosing to keep going and not stay stuck in that pattern, in that situation. That's where growth occurs. So if you're one of the people that are experiencing these ups and downs, rest assured that you are in the right place at the right time. You are ready to conclude cycles and patterns and move into new ones. New ones where you will be given the gifts and the opportunities to experience yourself as whole, as powerful, as a real creator, not an enslaved, soul that has amnesia and that's being subjected to outside circumstances and forces that are dictating the laws and the rules for you. No, that's all ending. So, welcome on board. We're in this together. And astrology just happens to be a marvelous system that helps me understand that and see that clearly. And so that's why I'm so passionate about sharing these messages with you through astrology. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. My name is Raquel Spring. Again, sign up for the newsletter on the link below the video if you want to keep up with the updates. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for sharing in this passion of astrology, the true astrology, with me. I am grateful for you. Until next time.